be joining as a member of the public, but she'll only be joining about 11 o'clock if she comes. So
No
just
problem.
to warn you and whoever's letting people into the meeting that somebody may try to join about 11 o'clock.
Okay, right. I had to do a bit of do it yourself on the IT this morning, and that's a dangerous thing with me.
Oh dear.
Okay. Minutes of the last meeting and actions. I have only got the agenda in front of me. So what I would say is taking down the issues we've got. We've had the resignation of Fiona Bowles. Very sad, but she sent a very nice letter and we've responded accordingly, which we put around the forum. I've got here Bridgespec DDA compliance GS.
Right, I sent that out actually.
Right, that's been sent round. Transport and travel links at Millam's Mead site. RW Restore Valley Partnership. Ruth?
Morning. Apologies. Hi there.
Hi,
Sorry,
Ruth.
can you? Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I've got transport and travel links at Millam's Mead site. Restore Valley Partnership.
Is
RW,
there
which I'm taking as you.
is there an action there? Sorry, I'm not clear.
Yes.
So the presentation that Catherine did at the last meeting was it was mentioned about the proposal that we've put forward for improvements at Millam's Mead, which is part of the Stour Valley scheme. We're awaiting feedback from Natural England on that, so that's not progressed any further forward.
Okay. Thank you for that update. Will Woodlands request for paths to be added to the definitive map? Myself and Janet.
Right, this is me. You should have had a little note from me about this. You'll remember that at the last meeting, Chris suggested that we might try to approach the landowners of Will Woodlands with a view to asking them if they would dedicate the public rights of way over this area of forest as public rights of way. And when I investigated it, I found out that Will Woodlands is a charity whose aim is tree planting for public enjoyment, heritage enrichment and nature conservation. So it sounds as if they might well be amenable to this, since it's part of their charitable aims, is encouraging the public to enjoy woodlands. But I had a vague recollection that charities can't dedicate public rights of way across their land without the permission of the Charity Commission. And a colleague at Ramblers confirmed that for me. But then I had another thought, which was rather than getting them to dedicate the paths as public rights of way, why not ask them to actually dedicate the woodland as access land under Section 16 of the Crow Act, which isn't a widely used power, but is something that I think should be encouraged, actually. But that wasn't what the instruction was at the last meeting. So the question that I'm posing now is, should we pursue Chris's original suggestion of asking for the present paths to be dedicated, or should we ask this charity to actually dedicate the whole woodland as access land under Crow? So I thought I should come back to the meeting with that, and say, which would you prefer us to do? Or shall we go to them with both ideas and see which one they would prefer to do?
Given the option, I think. Any other comments? That would be the sensible thing. You know, one seems to be fairly painless, administratively wide, and the other one gives us what we want anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I do think my colleague at Ramblers said they probably do still need to go to the charity commissioners if they wanted to dedicate the entire area as access land. So I there's probably, you know, it's going to be them going to their lawyers about this, whichever way we do it. But my own feeling is, well, we may as well go to them and give them the option of one or the other.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So you're happy for me to try to pursue that then?
Yes, consensus around the room. Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Trailway assessment to Councillor Hadley, not yet complete. That's one for Graham. So I think in this absence, we can't really progress that one further forward.
No, just looking for an update from this one. No, I've not got an update from him, so
Okay, that's fine. Info on LAF to Amy Smith. Natural Resources Team. FB, Fiona Bowles. I don't think we can move that further forward in the absence of anything from Fiona.
I'm not quite sure what that was.
Right. Yes. Right, so that takes us off the main body of the agenda. Item 4, which is a presentation by Jade North and Sophie Isaacs of Science.
Morning.
Morning.
Yes,
Morning.
I can.
Welcome.
Hello there. I will share the presentation. Obviously, Sophie's in the room there, so bear with me 2 minutes, and I will do that. Need to. Is everybody able to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Let me just get the right screen up on my computer as well. So good morning to everybody. This is the first time I've ever attended the Local Access Forum meeting. I've been asked to come along today by Graham Stanley, and he's asked both Sophie and I to present to you today about suitable alternative natural green space. So I'll start by discussing the concept of SANGs and the process we go through in their creation, and then Sophie will follow up with a little bit more information about the management of these spaces. So hopefully I'm not teaching you all to suck eggs here today, but I'll start with the basics. So a SANG site is a type of infrastructure project, and for today's and both my purposes, it's a type of heathland infrastructure project, or we commonly refer to it as a HIP. So SANGs can be created for other purposes, such as mitigating for bird disturbance of Poole Harbour, or other types of recreational disturbance that we might find elsewhere. There are 2 types of SANG that I deal with. Those linked to larger scale housing developments, so housing developments of 50 or more new homes, and those that are classed as what we call strategic SANG, which mitigate for many smaller windfall developments. And these are usually delivered by Dorset Council directly using development funds which we've collected through the community infrastructure levy, and that's pulled together, and then part of my role is to find and identify strategic SANG land and then deliver that, quite often in collaboration with another partner such as the Wildlife Trust. So how does it all start really? Where it starts is in the UK, we've got our Conservation of Habitats and Species Regulations 2017, so we refer to that as the HABS regs, which you'll all be aware of, and that replaces responsibilities on the councils as the competent authorities. We're advised by Natural England, and we must ensure that development or strategic plans that might impact a European site must undergo an assessment to evaluate any effects on sites conservation sites. So the planning authority's got to ensure that the plan or project will not harm the site's integrity, either alone or with other plans, considering any conditions, restrictions that could prevent adverse effects before giving approval or adopting the plan. And then we have our National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF it's referred to, and Planning Practice Guidance, which outline the procedures set out by the government that should be followed in deciding whether or not to approve a proposal. So what we do in Dorset is we have got in place a supplementary planning document, and that sets out that Dorset Council have agreed an avoidance and mitigation strategy, which consists of two mechanisms. So to protect our heathland sites, what we do is we restrict development within 400 metres of our heathland area. And generally that means that no housing development will take place within that 400 metre zone. And then between 400 metres and 5 kilometres of the heathland, we put mitigation in place. So that's our sang sites, for instance, to mitigate for the impact that those homes might have on our heathland sites. So there's currently two approaches in our strategy of avoidance. One are the heathland infrastructure projects, the HIPs, which is primarily our SANGs, and the other one is strategic access management and monitoring. So that is our engagement and education and our monitoring of both the heathlands and our HIP projects to make sure that they're working and functioning as should be. Whilst developing the local plan and considering planning applications, we refer to that Heathland SPD, and proposals are assessed against them to determine if they're likely to have any adverse effect and if they could be mitigated. For those that might be mitigated, the SPD also provides some guidance on the infrastructure projects, particularly the SANGs, of what they should look like in order to function effectively. And we have Natural England's regional team working closely with me and with colleagues to make sure that we're providing any further advice and looking at each project as a bespoke project to see how we can make sure that those function independently as well as together strategically. So really, the whole process is a bit of a collaboration because SANGs are delivered through the planning process. They're part of a really complicated process that involves many teams within Dorset Council and external organisations. So we've already mentioned Natural England, but we also have environmental consultancies that work for the developers and the developers themselves. And then we have Dorset Heath Partnership, who help us with monitoring, promotion, education, and that delivery of the SAM bit of the mitigation. So it's really usual for infrastructure projects, and I'm talking mostly SANGs at this time, to be identified early on and as part of the local plan and whilst that's being developed. And collectively, we'll work as a group together through the process to make sure that that the SANGs are designed and thought about from the very first point of the local plan being developed right through to delivery and in perpetuity. So it's my job as mitigation officer, and my role is the only position that holds mitigation as its main focus, to work at every stage of a project and provide that connecting thread throughout the delivery process to help to ensure that we get a final project or product, the SANGs ticking as many of those boxes as possible to provide high quality functioning green space. You can see here on the slide, I won't go through them all individually, but we'll be working with also legal teams, property and estates, to make sure that all of that is also tied down legally, so that if we need to make any changes, we have to do so through proper mechanisms. So what do we consider when we're planning a sang? Well, firstly, it's important to note that a sang does not necessarily have to be dog focused. Primarily they are in Dorset Council area, and that requirement comes from the monitoring of our heathlands, which currently identifies dog walkers as one of our main visitor pressures. And that has pretty much remained consistent over the last couple of decades. But we do have other pressures, which include trampling, mountain bikes going off-piste, fires, among many others. So we continue to monitor the heathland sites, and I continue to work closely with monitoring officers and Dorset Heath wardens to understand what our local pressures are, and all of that information gets fed back into the development of our sangs to make sure that we're sense checking where we're headed with those and what they look like. We've successfully carried out heathland infrastructure projects that address some of the other pressures, but there are fewer of them. So an example of that might be that up at Potton Park in Verwood, we created a little area of dirt jumps and had a skate park project in there, and that significantly reduced and to some extent pretty much stopped the bike activity on Julian's Common and Stephen's Castle. If I can recall correctly, I think we've maybe only had about 2 incidents in the last 10 plus years since that project was implemented on the heathland sites, and they were very quickly dealt with, and the people haven't returned to those sites. So different types of projects can have a really big effect. It's all about delivering them and making sure that they're covering off what those people are looking for and why they were doing that behaviour in the first place. So generally, therefore, we're looking at sangs at the moment where the main design consideration is walking and dog walking. So people being out enjoying nature is on the top of our list of the wider considerations. And so when we have our visitor monitoring in place, that really gives us an insight as to why people like to visit them. And that helps us hone the design. So things like walking directly from the car park, having benches so that they can rest, good views. And then, of course, we also need to look at practicalities for habitat management and infrastructure management. So making sure that our future site managers can get on and off the sites to manage them, to make sure that the sites are looking their best and still functioning properly. So there needs to be vehicle access. We need to make sure that the grass is able to be cut with a tractor, that sort of thing. Obviously, nothing is perfect, but it's important we try to identify problems early on. So we build in opportunities at each step to allow us to resolve anything that might have been missed. For example, the sangs are visited by myself and by the site managers annually, and that's whether they're Dorset Council owned sangs or whether they're sites that are owned still by the developers or another management company. I do annual visits with them every year for the first 5 years, and then every 5 years thereafter, which is in line with reviewing their management plans. So that gives us a really good opportunity to discuss things that are going well, things that are going not so well, and make any changes to the management. Any changes are then agreed with Natural England, and we make sure that we keep checking what's happening on those sangs through those visitor surveys, as well, to make sure that the site's functioning as it should be. So at the moment, in total, we have about 19 sangs in Dorset. As you can see from the slide, most of those currently are in our eastern area. And we have 33 in total that are approved. So we've got at least 14 more that are going to be delivered. That said, there's quite a few other sites as well on our list that will be being talked about that haven't yet got planning permission or are being discussed as part of the emerging Dorset local plan. So I don't think that we're going to stop at 33. I think that number will continue to rise. We're currently standing at approximately 610 acres or 247 hectares of additional recreation land that's been provided. And in addition to that, we've got 12 other types of HIPs on my project list, which I haven't incorporated here, but that includes bike facilities, which I've already mentioned, improvements to footpaths, new footpaths, and there are also a couple of dog training areas as well on the list. So when we're looking at the sang network that we've got currently, and I've got that up on the screen here, even with the ones that are planned and not yet implemented, we've still got quite a fragmented network when you look at it from a landscape perspective. Obviously, we can't deliver everything that we'd want to deliver all at once, and land is generally under high demand as well and at premium prices. So we've got to think really strategically. And when we're considering our next steps, it's important that we don't only understand where our sangs are and where the new homes are, but also where the heathlands are themselves. So if I pop up the next map, which shows where our heathlands are. Obviously, our heathlands have been quite fragmented in the past as well. And we need to be looking at both where the heathlands are and where the gaps are in that sang network, where we can intercept people travelling to the heaths and where new development will be, how we can connect less sensitive sites, not just sangs, but also areas like public open space, recreation grounds, rights of way, to make better quality, longer walking routes, and to give people decent other options that they can go to other than our heathland sites, attractive places that they're going to want to use. So in order to explain that a little bit further, I thought it'd be good to sort of hone in and look at one area where this is already starting to happen, and where we're already starting to create that connectivity. So a bit of a case study here, and that's Wimborne. So Wimborne has had a significant amount of housing development in recent years through the planning stages of the developments. East Dorset District Council in the past and now Dorset Council have worked closely with Natural England to consider how sangs would mitigate for each development, but also how they could work in combination for wider community benefits by connecting the green spaces. By the Way Field, which is up here, was our first sang, which was developed in 2012, so quite a while ago now, and that sits next to Lye Common, which was an existing countryside space and already had public access and footpaths through. So those two sites together have created a choice of walking routes for people and a range of habitats for them to enjoy. By the Way Field is mainly grassland, whereas Lye Common is a woodland site. So it really provides two different experiences for people of the countryside. By the Way Field also provides car parking and play facilities, and really is more of a formal recreation site compared to Lye Common, which sits next to it. So at the same time that By the Way was being delivered, public open space alongside the river, alongside, some of you might have heard of Dreamboats, which is just down here, was being delivered and improved by a local developer. and that is owned by Dorset Council. That has had new pathways, again, some more play and signage put along the river, making it a more attractive place for people to visit. And then following that, both of those projects were later added to by the approval of 2 new sang sites along the river to be called Stour View. So myself and Sophie are still working with the developers on those sites, but they will ensure that there's connectivity from the riverside walk that was already in place all the way along the existing rights of way along the river's edge around the fields, and we'll also be able to connect up into By the Way field through new development. Particularly this area here has a green corridor, which we secured as part of the planning process, which enables people to walk for as long as possible through green space before they get to the next site. So as time went on, the west of Wimborne has started to be developed. And again, we're looking for the sangs to function as standalone sites, but also in unison. So what's starting to happen is we're starting to see that the edges of the town are being wrapped around by sang, providing both usable green spaces, but also green spaces that are going to intercept people before they head out to our heathland sites. So to the north of Wimborne, we have Holt Heath and Uddins Plantation. To the east, we have Ferndown Common, Slop Bog and Parley Common. And then to the south of Wimborne, we've got Corfe Hills and Camford Triple SIs as well. So really, in combination, hopefully those sang sites are going to be intercepting people before they head out to those heathland sites. And there are some quite nice walks in between the sites, even if you have to walk through the town centre itself. There's still riverside paths that you can utilise through Wimborne to get to Dogdean, for instance. So I'm just conscious of time. I'm probably whittling on a bit too long, so I'm going to hand over to Sophie now. So she's going to have a little bit more of a closer look at a particular site, Dogdean, and she's also going to talk to you about the general management of sangs once they've been developed and handed over to her.
So basically, once all that's done, it comes over to my team, and then we deal with the sort of the active management or the practicality. So that's, you know, that list up there, but by no means exhaustive. It's a bit of everything really. So your practical management and then improvements that we identify as time goes on. But any management decision we make, it sort of fits in with that hierarchy of use. So the purpose of the site. So fundamentally, the purpose of the site is to protect heathland. So you want to keep people on the sangs. So whatever we can do to keep them usable, attractive, and good for their fundamental users, which do tend to be dog walkers. So all of our management decisions are sort of informed by that hierarchy of use. We, as Jade said, we do the monitoring, so year 1, year 3 or 5 and year 10, and that's carried out by Dorset Heath's partnership at the minute, and that's just been a visitor monitoring to get that feedback from people on the site, and that sort of informs if the site is working, if there's anything that can be done to make it better, and so that sort of feeds into our just our basic work on the site, which is what we see ourselves. Myself and Jade, we review the sites yearly, and we have Dorset Heath's partnership and Dorset Dogs. They do engagement on sites to sort of chat to, particularly to dog owners, and they can go out onto the heathland sites and actually advertise the sang sites. So sort of give people, you know, signpost them to the sangs as opposed to the heathlands. So yeah, that's our management bit. If you could go on to the next slide, please, Jade. Lovely. And this is just one of the sites. This is Dogdean. Yeah, this is sort of our interp panel that we have up there, just to give, you know, nice walking routes and sort of like a bird's eye view of the site. Next one, Jade. And yeah, just some snapshots of pictures of the site. These, a couple of these are a bit old, but they're Dogdean. And the two in the middle are By the Way. And we can add infrastructure. So those are two benches that are in the middle pictures. They're much newer additions to the site. So we can, you know, people can come to us, request things, and if we see that that's of a benefit to the site, we can implement that. And those benches were part of that. So yeah, I think that's me done.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. But one question that's of interest here, because of the Shore Society. Have you ever considered equestrian exercise? We've got walkers, we've got cyclists.
Yeah. Jade, I'm gonna get you to help me out this one.
Yeah. So I think I could only just hear you, but I think I heard right. Was that about cyclists and equestrians?
Well, yes, that's right, because
Yeah.
we have mentioned.
Yeah. So so that's a really good question, and yes, we do consider both. At the moment, horse riders and equestrians, whilst there is some impact on our Heathland sites, they aren't one of the top users who cause a huge amount of disturbance that's been identified through our Heathland monitoring. And the other thing that we have to consider is who are in the new houses, where those new houses are, and how that impacts our local heathland. So at the moment, we haven't had any heathland infrastructure projects geared up towards horses. We have done some education and engagement work with equestrian users of the heath, but we haven't actually implemented any additional projects. Interestingly, it has come up on a couple of our sang sites more recently about putting in equestrian routes, but we've had difficulties because obviously we don't want to be directing horse riders onto a site with then nowhere else for them to go, and we need to consider that there can be some user conflict between dog walkers and horse riders. So it's
Whoa, hang on a
trying to
second.
be careful.
Where do you evidence that conflict? Because it's not evidenced anywhere else on multi-use trails or on bridleways.
We found it on a couple of our sites within East Dorset before, and a lot of that does seem to result from people not keeping their dogs under control. So we do have to be mindful of that. But we need to be quite careful about making sure that we're reducing any likely user conflict, and to make sure that we manage that appropriately, because we don't want to be causing any user conflict. So if a project came up that would be suitable mitigation for the heathland and be in a equestrian project, providing for instance a new area for horse riders to go, then yeah, we would definitely consider that. But at the moment, we haven't had anything suitable arise. If there is a sang site that could incorporate a new bridleway, for instance, then yeah, that's definitely something that we would consider. But I can't think of a site at the moment where we have managed to implement that on a sang site. I can see a couple of other hands up, but was there anything more that you?
When you say that you go to local horse riders, the British Horse Society, surely you contact them and myself as the access field officer for the Southwest. Maybe it's something we can come and address offline.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd love to do more work. Dorset Heath's partnership have collaborated in the past, but that might be some time ago now, around interpretation. Obviously, there's been quite a few changes since local government review. So, and we Dorset Heath have had quite a few staff changes as well. So I don't know what they've done more recently, but certainly quite a way back, there was some collaborations, and particularly around Parley Common, I believe, back then. But yeah, any conversations that could happen and any potential projects, would really welcome hearing about them.
Sorry, is it also fair to say on that though that we're not actually trying to deter horses from using the heath, but actually as a recreational user, they're not causing the disturbance which the dogs are, which is why the recreational space is required for dogs rather than the requirement to move horses or create more space for horse riders. It's actually to reduce the impact of dogs, whereas horses are still welcome to use and frequent the open access that heathland affords.
Yeah, definitely, Russ. Sorry, I tried to touch on that to begin with, but maybe it didn't come across quite in the way I was hoping. But yeah, that's exactly it. So our monitoring doesn't show that horses are having a huge negative impact on our heathlands compared to dog walkers. And so therefore dog walkers have become our priority over the recent years, because they're the ones causing the most disturbance. You know, horse riders tend to stick to the bridleways and the places they're meant to go, whereas the dogs are running off through the heather, disturbing ground nesting birds, for instance. So it's those pressures that we're seeing that we prioritise addressing. And we have had a big increase in dog ownership as well.
Thank you. I see. I was going to take Mandy first, and then I'll come to you.
Okay.
Mandy, you there?
Yeah, thank you for trying to find the little clip button. Yeah, I was just going to ask. Don't know, Jade, if what you're talking about covers the kind of BCP area, but there's a sang in BCP, which is the one off of Magna Road, the Camford sang, which is privately owned and managed, I believe. So my question was just going to be, I don't know if you do cover that area, but generally as a principal, the stuff that we're talking about as a council that you're doing with SANGs, whether all that good stuff is being worked through with the ones that are privately managed as well. Because the reason I bring up the one at Camford is because locally people have shunned that SANG, and of course that's there to deter. I can't remember what the heathland's called off of all around Gravel Hill there, but people have deterred from using that SANG because the people that run it are kind of a bit strict, shall we say, and are viewed as being deterring people from going into the SANG, which is quite interesting.
Okay, yeah, I'm aware of the site, and I'm aware of some of the bits and pieces that go on the BCP area, but my role does primarily cover, or it does only cover, the Dorset Council area. So I will work with officers in BCP if they ask for my advice or if there's something to collaborate on, but it is treated separately. So we have many SANGs that are owned privately in Dorset Council area, and essentially we try and treat them the same as our countryside sites. So I will visit all of those SANGs with the SANG managers annually to make sure that the sites are functioning appropriately and to pick up on anything that might have changed over the last year, to troubleshoot any problems that they might be having. And for those sites as well, we do insist on that visitor monitoring happening. So the visitor monitoring happens the first year 3 or 5, and then year 10. And we might even identify that an extra visitor survey needs to happen, but that will then inform us as an authority about whether that SANG's functioning correctly, and also help inform the site managers about if there's anything else that they could tweak to make better. It's very difficult if people have stopped going to those sites to obviously speak to them about why they've stopped going to the sites. So we do also have Heathland monitoring in place. And what we do is our wardens of the Heathland sites, they record any conversations or the gist of conversations once they've had them when they're out on our Heathland sites, so that we've got that data and can feedback as well. So if anyone up on our Heathland sites are saying to us, well, I do go to this site as well, but I've stopped going there because of this and that, we're able to pick that up and then feed that back onto our SANG sites. And we continuously look at our monitoring to check to see if there's anything more that we can do. Obviously, we've got restrictions with our budgets, but to see if we can pick up anything that might help us tweak those SANGs or tweak our strategy as a whole to improve it, to make sure we're keeping that mitigation in place.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I should just also point out that for those private SANGs in Dorset Council area, we have step-in rights. So if those SANGs aren't functioning properly, for instance, I don't know, all of the trees fall down and they don't clear them and no one can access the site, we have the right to step in and carry out that work to make sure that they can then function properly again.
Yeah, that's interesting. That was going to be my question. I mean, I refer to the one in BCP, and I know that one of the big issues there is, I think I mean, even I won't go there. So that tells you something. It's literally around the corner from me. But apparently they've put in gates which are stopping disabled vehicles being able to access the car park, and people with disabilities being able to access the SANG. That's made a huge amount of noise. So that was kind of my question. Although that's BCP, if that were to happen in Dorset, would we step in and say, actually, why have you put those fences up and closed the gate off and kind of all of that sort of thing?
Yeah, I would certainly have those conversations and try and identify what's happening, and if there's anything that can be done to improve it. Yeah, we'd certainly have those conversations. We do have some difficulties, or we have had some difficulties certainly in our eastern area before with illegal activity on our SANGs, as well as the Heathland site, things like motorbikes. So sometimes the sites have to have sort of more infrastructure than we would ideally wish for. Obviously we'd love for everyone to be really open and really accessible, but for instance, Stour View in Wimborne, that's had history of motorbikes going on that site. So we have to be, it's really tricky sometimes to get that balance, but we do try and do as much as we can to keep an eye on that and to address it appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
I was going to I've got thousands of questions. So
we're actually overrunning. So
okay, I was going to point people to this, which I think is quite useful: compilation and review of evidence leading to SANG and SAM provision, of which Dorset took place. And it's quite interesting if you look at the pie chart, which isn't in the bit that I've photocopied, but Dorset actually on the heathlands seems to have more dog walkers than any other place that was part of this review, which actually amazed me. But it's a higher percentage even than around Cannock Chase, say, or even on the Thames Basin heaths. So I can see why, what we're trying to do is providing for dog walkers. Can I ask you obviously, you say you've chosen the sites, and they're great sites, except some of them are on floodplains, as we know. And so the Catley SANG, I'm really looking forward to using. It's about 400 yards from my house at the very most. Dogdean is great, but I also recognise that some of these sites go underwater, and they should really be surely available for 365 days a year or are you only trying to make them available during the bird nesting season?
Yeah, so it is a real issue. I say we choose the sites. It's very difficult to be really choosy because it depends on land availability, and it depends on to some extent on what the developers are proposing. So we can try and influence that by, for instance, if the developers have got an area of land asking for some areas to be excluded and some areas to be included, and certainly when we're looking at our strategic SANGs, we can be a bit more choosy, still restricted depending on who wants to sell their land or collaborate, but that's certainly taken into account. And unfortunately as well, because of the time it takes to develop some of these sites, Catley's one of them, there have been changes, environmental changes, which have been affecting some of those areas as well. And in effect, they're underwater for more time than they were when we first started planning the sites.
Well,
So,
and I think you must have looked at a dry year, because my experience of the Catley Sang is that whole area up to the Crown Pub is basically underwater, which is very nice, but perhaps not for dog walkers.
Yeah.
It is a very wet site. Obviously, we've got the rest of Dogdean as well. So both sites were considered at the same time together collectively. So we are very much advised by Natural England on some of these matters as well. And they do take a view that we need to be considering the bird nesting season, like you point out, and availability of land primarily during that time. But like you say, we do try and secure access for as many days throughout the year as possible. And I think, you know, as time goes on, as our climate changes and as areas stay wetter for longer, ideally we will be looking for more and more sangs outside of that flood zone. But obviously it is land that developers are quite keen to put forward because it's land that they can't develop easily. So it's can be very, very tricky to find that balance.
Okay, can I make one more point? Mandy brought up about kissing gates. Well, and you did mention about Star View. Now, on the Dogdean Sang, there were so many kissing gates, I can't believe. And I mean, I don't know, but I don't think they're fitted with radar keys. I think they are they?
Yeah. All of them, yeah.
So people with trampers, could a tramper get through there?
Yeah.
It looks like a small space to me. But
yeah, no, they can. They're tested.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that tends to be our minimum standard, is for all of them to have the radar locks on those kissing gates and to, you know, be accessible. There's maybe a couple of occasions where we've accepted something less, but where a wheelchair wouldn't be able to go through anyway. For instance, if it was really wet and, you know, you'd be looking at wellies yourself, but there would be very small areas. So yeah, all of the gates should have those radar locks on them.
Okay.
Janet, I'll come to you.
Okay, I'll be very quick. It's only a short question. The paths on the Sangs, are they dedicated as public rights of way?
No. Well, some of them are, if they were already public rights of way. But other than that, no, they're not. Obviously, Sangs should be accessible, fully accessible spaces anyway, where people are able to walk off of the paths if they want to, and create desire lines. So we haven't done that. Obviously, if an area was being in a Sang was being restricted for any reason, then that's something we'd really want to analyse closely, because it would be affecting the function of the Sang anyway. So that's why we haven't necessarily gone down the route of dedication.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you both. Very informative, and I'll come back to you, Jade, offline, and we'll progress the matter of equestrian access on sites where appropriate.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.
Okay, we're running a bit behind time, so I'm coming now to the presentation on the Wareham Arc project by Sam. That's you. Good morning, Sam. Pleased to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Just share this so you can share your presentation.
Right. We've allocated till 11:10 on this. If it's possible,
Try and be quick.
and allow for a few questions afterwards. Thank you.
Break a bit shorter.
We can,
maybe?
yes. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So for those of you who I haven't met, which is probably all of you, I'm Sam Dallymore. I'm the Community Engagement Officer for the Wareham Arc project, which is a landscape recovery project. So it's part of DEFRA's environmental land management schemes, short for ELMS. So there are within the elms, there are sustainable farming incentives, there's countryside stewardship, and then landscape recovery, which is the newer raft of projects. So those elms are about sustainable food production with environmental benefits, so bringing environmental benefits with them. Weremark is one of the round one projects. There's 22 of those. So they are all submitting their proposals this year. And there are, I think, 34 in round two. So together, round one will restore 7,000 kilometres of rivers in England, and that will be on about 40,000 hectares of land. So they're quite substantial schemes across the whole country. So for the Weremark project, we've got about 4,000 hectares, and it's quite diverse habitats within that area. One of the stipulations when DEFRA created this scheme is that the land holdings have to be contiguous. So that means that you have to be, if you're a landowner in the project, you have to be joined to at least one other landowner, so that the landscape is sort of joined together. So we're joining together habitats rather than working with sort of individual, so like countryside stewardship works with individual landowners. The point of this is that it's joined together, and we are adjacent to Poole Harbour on the eastern side, and the Purbeck, we just about join up to the edge of the Purbeck Heaths super NNR on the most southern sort of part of the project. I can't show you the actual project map, unfortunately, because we're not allowed to share, because some of the partners, because they haven't actually signed up and we don't have an agreement in place at the moment. They don't want to share their project boundaries. But that is the extent. So that's like the outside boundary of the project, if you like. So we go as far west as Wildwoodbury, Dorset Wildlife Trust site, as far east as Litchett Fields, which is an RSPB site. And then on the southern edge, we go down, we've got an ARC site that's just on the edge of Grange Heath and by the rifle range. And then the actual shape of the project land within that is a sort of very squiggly kind of, not an arc, but that's where the name came from. So we've got over 20 partners. They're a real mixture. So we've got some farmers, we've got some quite large estates, private estates. We've got various local businesses, we've got statutory bodies, and we've got some charities, wildlife conservation charities. So we have RSPB, Dorset Wildlife Trust, and Amphibian and Reptile Conservation, all have reserves in it, nature reserves in it. And we also have quite a big chunk of Wareham Forest, not the whole of Wareham Forest, but quite a big chunk of Wareham Forest, which is Forestry England, obviously. And we have Natural England's Sanford Heath NNR and Morden Bog NNR. So that doesn't make up obviously all of the land in the project, but it's a reasonable chunk, especially Wareham Forest. We are currently in the 2-year development phase, so we're nearly at the end of our 2-year development phase, which has been entirely funded by DEFRA. And then we submit all of our plans by the end of June this year. They then go through a negotiation process. DEFRA go through a negotiation process with us. So most of the project team will stay employed, but just to a lesser degree for that period of time, so that they can ask us questions and we can discuss with the landowners. So that's called the bridging period, which is for up to 6 months. It may be shorter, but it's for up to 6 months. And then hopefully by January, if not before next year, we will start the 20-year funding. So that's where it's very different from any of the other schemes that DEFRA currently have running. They tend to be 5 or 10-year agreements. This is going to be a 20-year agreement. So it's obviously quite a different thing for a lot of landowners. So that's sort of taken a while for people to get used to and get their head around, because if you're saying that you're going to change your management for 20 years, that's that's a significant period of time. And when we get to that point, DEFRA won't be funding everything. We will have to look for other funding as well. So what we're doing at the moment is creating the plans that we have to submit to DEFRA. So we have to have a land management plan for the entire area. So that's basically individual land management plans for each landowner, which are then all brought together into one. We've got to have a monitoring and evaluation plan. So these are all plans that DEFRA have stipulated that we have to submit. So that is for the ecological monitoring for the changes that we're hoping to make, but it's also for the social side of things, visitor figures and number of people volunteering, attending events, that kind of stuff. We've got to create a site access plan. So any access any existing access and then any access improvements that we're hoping to create across the area. We've got to have a stakeholder engagement plan. So that is our how we're going to work with local communities across the area and provide more opportunities. There's got to be a finance plan because obviously we claim the money from DEFRA and then it goes out to the partners. So there's got to be a governance plan and a finance plan to work out how we do all of that. And we'll have to set up a single legal entity because we'll have to have a between all do you want to sorry
I'm not controlling that.
oh, okay so yeah, so we have to have an agreement legally between all the partners, so it may become something like a community interest company to be able to draw down the money to then be able to send it to the right places. And we also at the moment are exploring other options for finance, so things like green finance, nutrient neutrality, carbon credits, those sorts of things. So those markets haven't progressed as much as DEFRA had thought before they started this scheme, but hopefully within the 20 years they will. So they're in our sort of plans, but not for the first couple of years. So the vision for Wearmark is to create a landscape in which natural processes are restored so that habitats become more resilient, and the businesses that rely on those habitats are also more resilient. We're hoping to be able to attract and welcome more diverse audiences into those areas, and create more opportunities for volunteering and engagement. And the other main sort of aim is for all of our partners to work together and to benefit from each other's knowledge and experience, and hopefully improve things for wildlife and people. So our specific environmental objectives are to optimise natural processes in the area, to contribute towards climate change mitigation. So the main way that we're hoping to do that is by obviously not creating loads of carbon, getting things locally, so not sort of ordering items from miles away, but also doing quite a lot of ensuring that the soils can sequester carbon, and also re-wetting some areas of bog and mire, because that will aid the peat formation, and peat is obviously brilliant at holding carbon and locking it away for thousands of years. So we'll be doing all of those kinds of things. By doing some of the interventions in the rivers and the floodplains, we are hoping that we'll improve the water quality that flows out. So we've got part of the Sherford, part of the Piddle and part of the Froome within the project. So we're hoping that by slowing the flow in those rivers, they'll drop out their nutrients, and that nutrient won't then end up in Poole Harbour and add to the nutrient load in Poole Harbour. Because as you probably know, there's loads of algal mats. It's difficult for some birds to feed in the mud, the invertebrates that they want to get to in the mud through those algal mats, and the cause of that is nutrient enrichment. We are hoping to deliver a whole range of habitats and improve some existing habitats, restore some existing habitats, and increase their connectivity. So doing things like fairly simple things, but creating more sort of corridors and stepping stones of habitats within some of the agricultural land so that it joins to the existing nature reserves. We also hope through that work to contribute to the recovery of some threatened species. So things like sand lizards and smooth snakes, which although they're in this area, well, not this area, in the Wareham area on the heathland, they're quite common, but obviously nationally they're very rare. So things like that, by creating better habitats. We're hoping also that some of the work we do will reduce the likelihood of fires being able to spread, because there'll be more wet areas. So we're reinstating the wet areas within some of the heathland habitats, which will hopefully reduce the impacts of droughts and also flooding as well. And we are doing quite a lot of work on rhododendron mapping within the project area, because there's quite a lot of rhododendron in various places in the project. So one of our aims is to basically clear that over 20 years. So we've done a lot of mapping and got a lot of quotes for that work. And the social side is to provide more opportunities for volunteers, so whether that's practical work, survey work, engagement activities. We also hope to create a work experience programme with local schools and Kingston Ward College, where students can come and do either week placements, but spread across the partners rather than just working with one partner, or where they can do, so Kingston Ward particularly, where they can do sort of a day or a half day a week with various partners over a period of time. We are hoping to improve accessibility in some locations. Obviously, there are some areas of the project where we can't increase accessibility because of either the nature of the habitats, in that they're too wet, so you can't access them, or because they're particularly vulnerable, or there are vulnerable species in there. We're also working with the partners to increase the number of engagement opportunities that they cover, so things like guided walks and activities for different age groups. And then our other main thing is to communicate the importance and the benefits of landscape recovery to the wider community, so that people understand that reinstating natural processes is a good thing, and obviously that might be tricky in places. So our current volunteer opportunities, we have a few different citizen science projects. We've got a weekly volunteer group that I take out normally today, so they're with someone else today. So we go and basically just do work on bits around the project, whichever landowners want us to do stuff. We have obviously some of the charity landowners already have conservation tasks, so we kind of join in with those when relevant, but we also go and do things like we cleared a whole section of path along the edge of the river on the common in Wareham because it had all grown in. So yeah, all sorts of things. And the idea within the project is to expand that, so we'll have weekend opportunities as well for people who are working and for families, and we'll also have more citizen science stuff, more survey stuff available, and hopefully work with specific groups like some SEND groups, some mental health rehabilitation type groups as well. So again, trying to encourage people who don't normally maybe spend much time outside to be able to do so. And then we're also hoping to run a series of guided walks in different areas. So some of that will be for specialist groups, some of that will be for local community. We will be having free education visits. So I think there's 6 sites within the project who want to do education stuff. So they'll have up to 25 education visits, which will be free to local schools, youth groups, scouts, guides, anyone, U3A, any age group, as long as they're learning something through the visit. So they'll just have to get to the site. That's quite a lot of obviously education visits over 20 years. We'll also be looking at implementing some more health walk routes and groups, and potentially some health cycling routes as well, some dementia friendly walks, and specific activities for groups who currently don't sort of get outside that much for various reasons. And we have put in for some community transport, so hiring a bus and a driver to get some of the groups that are underrepresented out. And then we'll also have, and this is kind of a bit more the access stuff, we'll have a website, project website. We have one at the moment, but we will have a new one, which will have loads more functions. And it will have a map showing all of the access points where you can go. There'll be pre-visit information for all of the areas that you can access. There'll be downloadable leaflets for walking and cycling. We'll have in some locations.
You talk about walking and cycling.
Yeah.
Are you including horse riding there as well?
There are bridleways. There's a network of bridleways across the project area. We're not putting in any more bridleways because we're not putting in any more rights of way. One reason is because DEFRA, that's not part of the thing that we can fund through this project. They've said that we can't fund work on statutory rights of way because it's funded through other mechanisms, because it's obviously government funded.
Couldn't you include them as multi-use, because Sustrans are advocating paths for everyone?
We have got some new paths going in, but some of them are quite small locations where there has been no public access before, because it was farmland. So it's a new path that will be accessed for all, but potentially not suitable for horse riding, just because it's not a very big area. So yeah, I'm not sure is the answer to that one.
I'm
But
working.
So FE are changing how they do stuff within the forest, Wareham Forest, the main block. So there will be changes to access for horses for that, so you won't have to have a permit anymore.
Yes, that's been announced, but I'm
Yeah.
working on another scheme similar to this up in Somerset, the Great Sedgemoor scheme, and that is most definitely including horses. So maybe again that's something we can liaise with afterwards. And I'm wondering why you're getting one set of things from DEFRA down here in Dorset and
It
another
might
set.
be because they're round two, but it very clearly says in our guidance that. Okay.
It's one of the 20 schemes.
Okay. It does very clearly say in our guidance that DEFRA won't fund anything for public rights of way.
Or it could be permissive paths.
Yeah, we do have some. So there are permissive paths. There aren't very many landowners within the project who want to put in more permissive paths. So there are a couple of places, and there are a couple of places where access is going to be improved. But because we've got quite a lot of land that's in the river valleys, it's not accessible. They're floodplains, so it's not even accessible on foot.
But if you're making them cycle trails as well, you could make them for all user groups.
But we can't do that in the floodplain areas. So the only places we could do that would be on the heathlands, basically. And there's already quite a network of public rights of way on the heathlands, and in Wareham Forest, obviously there's a huge network of forestry roads that can be used for cycling, horse riding and pedestrians. But they are planning to make some specific routes there slightly better in terms of the surfacing for access for all, and in a couple of other locations. So there'll be maps on site in various locations. We will be improving waymarking as well, making sure that routes that we have worked with landowners on will be waymarked on the ground. And in some places, path surfacing. We're going to be providing benches in quite a few locations so that there's more suitable places for people to stop and rest. And in a couple of places, we're going to be putting in viewing screens. So where we've got particularly sensitive habitats, but amazing bird spectacles, particularly in the winter, we'll be putting in some new access to those and viewing screens so that people can obviously enjoy that. And also it's part of our monitoring, because we're hoping to re-wet those areas. So places like Maldenbog will be doing that kind of thing. So yeah, that's it. We have a website currently. You're very welcome to have a look at it. It's a little bit difficult in that I couldn't put up the address, but I can share the address. I can send it and you can share it. But basically, as long as you put Wareham Arc Landscape Recovery into a search engine, it should come up, but choose the ArcGIS website, because there's quite a few other articles that also come up. Yeah, you're welcome to email me. There's also a generic email address on the website, so you can email that as well. And there's more details about landscape recovery on the government website. Yeah, any questions?
Oh, can I?
Yes, please.
I think it sounds like an amazing project, like a lot of the other landscape recovery projects are absolutely going to be amazing. But really, I mean, you know, if we're being honest, what this is about really is about engagement and connectivity with people with a green space, really, rather than really accessibility, rather than lots of new access routes.
Yeah, it's about connecting up things that already exist, improving some routes that maybe aren't as accessible as they could be. We'll also have a path warden scheme, so we'll have people who will be going out and regularly, so they'll adopt an area, and they'll be going out and then regularly checking those paths and reporting back to either rights of way team if it's a right of way, or the project team and the landowners if it's a permissive route. And the main thing is to make more information available about places that people can go, because at the moment for the area it's very sort of kind of scattergun. There's information in all different places, so our website will be a kind of hub for that sort of information, and obviously there'll be more information on particular sites as well.
Accessibility, not necessarily increased via definitive rights, but Graham Stan will be working quite closely in order to improve access right the way through the area. So looking at the opportunities for stiles to be removed and gates or gaps to be installed, making sure the network. We should also say having the wardens going around and checking regularly to clear back vegetation will keep these areas open. So yeah, it might not be increasing the length, but the quality.
Increasing the quality. So it'll be access for all, in fact, rather than just
some locations. I mean, obviously in some areas the surface is a grassy field, so that is still going to be predominantly people who are able to walk fairly well. But in other areas near car parks and things like that, there'll be some more accessible routes.
Although you see trampers these days and trikes can go up Snowdon. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I don't think they should ever be. We don't want them to. But why don't you want accessible people who are disabled to enjoy the countryside?
Well, that was going to be one of my questions, is that where it's a lovely idea. I do wonder about how the management of it is when you've got tenant farmers, you've got private landowners. Who's actually in charge? Who actually swings the weight? So it comes down to it.
So if we have a landlord with a tenant farmer, we're depending on how long that tenancy has to run, we're talking to both, basically. So in effect, both are project partners. Most of the tenant farmers in the area have quite long tenancies, which outlive the period of the project anyway. So although we're primarily dealing with the tenant, we also have to make sure that the landowner is happy with any changes that are proposed. And mainly that's the farmland, really, in which there's not many access changes because it will just be the rights of way. We won't be creating any more.
You're not likely to be creating open access on.
Not on farmland, because it's still farmland. They still need to obviously run their business. So there might be things like there might be school visits there. There might be guided walks there, but it will be a bit more selective kind of access for some of those places, just because obviously the nature of running a farm, you need to know when people are going to be wandering around.
Yeah, I see that, not a problem.
Yeah. But there are quite a lot of areas that are heathland, which obviously open access. There's most of Wareham Forest, and again that's open access and has loads of routes across it. So.
My other point is actually, I know it's it's joining it up together, which getting the information in one place sounds good. But the Wareham, that arc area is quite a vulnerable space. You know, there's already an awful lot of eroding of paths by mountain bikers, by horse traffic, by, you know, people with dogs. They're slightly lighter. We get a lot of wheeled traffic out across the Wareham Heath, which shouldn't be there anyway. And of course, it's sort of telling them more where they can go. And we also are very much a hotspot holiday area. So you know, in the summer, you can't walk in Wareham Forest without bumping into at least half a dozen other people at any time of day. I'm in there up past 6 a.m. and there's people walking the dog. You can't park along Wareham, the B375, because there's just so many cars that have pulled in. So unless you're going to create more car parking spaces, you're just going to get an awful lot of congestion on the side roads, and that's a bit worrying. And the other bit is have issues, and I think quite a few of the parish councils will have issues with increasing access in a way by making it so much, you know, the access is already there, but obviously you have to know it's there. And I do wonder if you're just actually encouraging more people to come and put pressure on it. For example, the Arn site, the RSPB Arn, every time it goes on to Springwatch, it is trashed for about 3 months afterwards, because everybody goes there because they've seen it on telly, and you can't park within about 3 miles. The RSPB have got a very bad name in the area because of that. And I just wonder if we are just creating more conflict.
We are a local access forum.
I know.
Looking to promote access to the countryside by all user groups with all abilities.
But I'm just saying it has to be very carefully handled, that you don't just suck in people at certain times. And
So the
then
aims of the project,
you'll get conflict with the locals in a way.
yeah, the aims of the project are not to encourage loads of extra visitors, but to encourage more diverse visitors, if you like, because there are quite a few groups in Wareham and the surrounding area who don't really access the countryside. So our aim is to reach those groups and ensure that they can access the countryside. It's not to get loads and loads of tourists to visit the site. That's not the plan at all. There are so on the 2 campsites on Wareham Forest, so Birchwood and Wareham Forest touring site, we're not allowed to put any interpretation panels on their sites, but we can, because it has to be in the project, within the project boundary. So we can put them just outside their exits onto the forest. So they'll have maps showing them where they can cycle, where they can walk, and obviously QR codes so they can get more information about things. We're also supporting within the project, but I'm not sure how that's going to work in terms of the funding, the promotion of cycle routes within the wider area, because technically we can't support stuff that's outside of the project boundary. But those are DEFRA's rules, but we are going to work with the council to find funding for the missing kind of cycle link between, so you've got the bit that comes from Baker's Arms down to Holton Heath Industrial Estate, and then there's a gap, and then there's a bit that goes from the school down through to Wareham. So we're going to hopefully help finding funding for that section.
That would be very
we can improve, so we can get people off the roads onto bikes, safely travelling through the project area. But we are also potentially improving the Seeker car park a little bit as well, and have surfacing in for some of the other car parks around Forest just as a maintenance thing.
That spine route would be one that equestrian access would be something to target.
On the roadside? So
You're saying you're going to do a walking and cycling route across it?
No, so basically alongside the main road, the A35.
Right, okay, I see. I see, yeah.
So there are 2 sections of off-road cycleway, and then there's a section in the middle which you're back onto 60-mile-an-hour road, which obviously deters a lot of people from cycling in that area. So we're hoping to work with council to get that bit done. I don't know how long that will take, but they're drawing stuff up and they're costing it up currently. And we're also hoping to work with the council and the landowner, which is in the project, for a new section that will go basically from the Baker's Arms roundabout, but on the harbour side of the road, the A35, around the edge of the bypass essentially and into Upton.
Okay.
So hopefully we
Russell,
can get out.
I think you're going to come in some clarification.
Yeah, so just regards to that element of it, I was talking, the reason I was actually a couple minutes later, so I caught up with Chris Peck upstairs. He would like to come and engage again in active travel later that meeting. And that one is one we've been talking about with him and Kevin Humphreys as well. So that one it is primed and that one is being moved forward.
Yeah.
Just to pick up the point about access and local communities, I'd be really interested to talk to some of those parish councils that are finding pressure during certain times of the year. I think with the SANGs and then projects such as this that are increasing access to the countryside, I think, of course, we have a finite amount of open space and rights of way within the county. And I think I see it conversely that the locals then have somewhere else to go, because we know from our own feedback that people aren't going to the coast, for instance, during peak summer. So they need somewhere else to go. So it actually gives us this ability to spread people around. And granted, when Springwatch has been on Arn, and Arn is a honeypot site, but any of the parish councils that are suggesting that access to the countryside becomes a pressure or a burden, I'd be very interested to come and speak to some parish council meetings and have that talk, and then to discuss.
Set you up with Wareham, St Martin's, Arn, and you're coming to Morden anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking to Wareham Town Trust, I'm going to Town Council shortly. The only ones I'm not doing so far are Locksworth and Eastholm.
Locksworth doesn't have a parish council, so you have to go to the annual meeting.
Yeah.
But then the Wareham Arc actually basically stops at the A35, doesn't it?
Yes.
You don't come north of the A35. Are you liaising with Wessex Water?
Yeah.
Talking to them?
Yeah.
Because I would have said the Blackheath sewage works is your biggest issue.
I'm not personally talking to them. The project manager is, but yeah, and they are technically, I think they're a partner because they've got some land that's within the project area.
Oh yes, they've got land and they've got the headwaters of the Sherford River, or part of it.
Yeah. So we are talking to them. We're talking to them about multiple things on all three rivers. Yeah.
And I know it's not strictly speaking Wareham Arc, but just as something for the rangers to think about is on your business of access for horses, there is a very good bridleway that goes from Organford down through the forest and links up across very well, but you've got to get across the A35.
Yeah, so
on a horse, the A35 is not a road you want to cross.
That is one that has come up before, and of course with highways, that makes sense. So we are looking at other mitigation measures in other areas as well. We have been quite successful for severance in order to put elements in that either reduce the speed limit or put some kind of crossing in there. So I'll pick that one up again. That one may already have been raised and maybe somewhere in the pipe. I don't know, but I'll look at that one again.
I think I know the answer. I take it. You said you stop at the A35.
Yeah, we don't go north of the A35.
So that you're not including Ford Heath, Vinegar, Quarry. No.
It's the other side of the the other side.
Yeah, no, that's Puddletown Road, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it would.
There's some land around there but I can't say. So annoying. I can't say what.
Because that was part of effectively an exchange of land under the Commons Registration Act 2006, as the owners wanted to extend the quarry, and so there were lots of suggestions made by the planning inspectorate, who
who gave permission for that exchange. And as far as I can see, not a single one of those improvements has been put in place.
I think I know what you mean. So it's the bit that's sandwiched between Puddletown Road and the A352, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So it's in that triangle. So it's next to Walgreet Heath, SSSI.
Yeah, Park site.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've walked across there just because I might go for walks and live in the area. That's not in the project area.
Oh, that's a pity.
Yeah,
but continue to deal with it then.
There is potential in the future for other areas of land to be joined into the project area.
Yeah, it's a real pity because they were supposed to make improvements to one of the blocks of land to make it effectively less of an agricultural site and more natural.
They have put in a big, which I've walked along, there's like quite a big gravel path.
They put in a bridleway. That I think that is the only thing they seem to have done there.
Right.
Didn't improve the car park. In fact, they blocked off certain areas, and they certainly haven't improved the land. And
I don't honestly.
So I'll be my next moment of time to. I was looking at it last week actually, so I'm going to be looking at that again.
Right. If I could draw a thread here because we are massively running over time.
Sorry.
Sam, thank you very much indeed for your presentation. If we could have a quick 5-minute break, I'll try and get back as soon as I can after 11:30. Okay, make a start. Try and get back to time. Are you online, Vanessa? Yes, you are.
I am, yes.
Thank you. If you could give a sort of brief snapshot of what you've got on the definitive mapping statement, legal record team.
Right. Bear with me a moment. Hopefully you can see that now.
Yes.
Super. Okay, so this won't take long. It never does, so you won't be surprised. So just a few news items first, things that have happened since the last meeting. The amounts we charge for public path orders and for landowner deposits have increased with effect from the 1st of April this year. They hadn't been reviewed for many years and really didn't reflect the amount of work that was involved in either of those tasks. We did an in-depth costing exercise to determine exactly how much we spent on each task. And this was done in line with the costing exercise that was undertaken recently for planning fees, because we are within the planning service. So we use the same mechanisms that they used. And as a result of that exercise, the public path order charges have increased from 3,000 to 5,000. And landowner deposits have increased from £350 to £500. As part of the process, we also did a benchmarking exercise with other authorities, and we are now broadly in line with the majority. The new fees are available on our website, so if anyone wants to look at them in more detail, that information is there. The parish boundary changes project is progressing well. We're well over halfway through now and hope to have it completed by the end of the year at the latest. It's been a major task and has taken up quite a lot of our new member of staff's time, but she's doing a really great job and hopefully it will all be sorted soon. Public inquiry updates. You might recall we had a public inquiry last December looking into a claim for a footpath at Bradford Abbas, footpath 8. It was considered at a one-day inquiry last year. The site visit was held the following day, and the path has now been confirmed by the Secretary of State as claimed for. I'm not sure that it's actually available to the public at the moment, but I know that Dave Ackley is working on it with the landowner. So if it's not available currently, it will be soon, hopefully. We don't have any public inquiries, other inquiries currently scheduled, but we we do have a few cases with the planning inspectorate, so I'll keep you posted on that. Since the last meeting, we've also confirmed another DMMO, the bridleway along the railway cutting on Portland. We did have one objection, but this was subsequently withdrawn, so we could go ahead and confirm it. And this photograph is actually the route, and you can see that it's been recently cleared. I have to say the photo doesn't actually do the route justice at all. It is a really nice route, and unfortunately when this photo was taken it wasn't a particularly nice day, so it hasn't come out terribly well, but it is a lovely route. Unfortunately it's quite short, and as you know, bridleways on Portland are sadly lacking, but it's a step in the right direction, so hopefully at some point we will be able to add to it.
I've
And
actually
also,
walked that route, and I concur. It's an excellent link, shall we say, to routes that are currently being informally used. So there needs to be a wider survey of Portland for equestrian opportunities.
Yeah. It's been a long-standing problem, but we'll get there in the end. Also, since the last meeting, we've confirmed 4 public path orders, one at Thorncombe, one at St Leonard's Farm Park, footpath 1 at Lyme Regis, which is the new route along the coast path, well, down from the car park down to the town, and also footpath 91 at Marnor. So we've had quite a bit going on recently. And looking at the case figures, firstly the DMMOs, not a massive change, I'm afraid. The figures don't reflect the amount of work that's going on. We still have 239 cases not started. As before, 214 of those are from the BHS as part of the cut-off date project. In real terms, there are 25 on the active waiting list that we're actually able to start. We have 45 cases in progress. 3 cases are currently with the planning inspectorate, 1 at Rampersham, Mill Lane at Chiddock, and a drafting error at Staunton Corndall. So we're waiting to hear back from them, but PINs still have a backlog of cases, so they say it's about 7 to 8 months delay, but in real terms what we're experiencing is about a year from when we submit a case to when they actually make initial contact with us. There are still 28 cases in the queue waiting to be submitted to the planning inspectorate, some of which are with our legal services team, so they're underway, and others are still in our queue waiting for the submissions to be prepared. Moving on to public path orders, looking a bit better. We have 5 cases not started, 37 cases in progress, and 11 of those are Town and Country Planning Act applications relating to development, and 6 of that 11 have actually been confirmed, but we're just waiting for the works on the paths to be completed before the diversion orders can actually come into operation. We have 1 case currently with the planning inspectorate, which is Chantry Farm at Bedminster, diversion and extinguishment order. So we're waiting for it to reach the top of their queue, basically. And that's it, short and sweet. So any questions, anyone?
Vanessa, thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
I see no questions. A very thorough run through. Yes.
Can I just say congratulations about, and I think, I'm not sure if it's marked anywhere else, about the new path, oh, flipping heck, I've forgotten the name of it, the Cordite Way.
Oh, yes, that was one of our DMMO
is that,
applications.
Yeah, that is a footpath, isn't it?
Yes.
A legal right of way now.
Yes, yeah.
That's great.
I attended the opening. Sorry, Vanessa, I cut in.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say that's the route that goes to the railway line and then stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have bridge issues.
Yes. I actually went there for the opening day, and it is ridden by horses. And my understanding is there's not a problem with horses riding it at all. It's highly
good.
suitable.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I think Mandy has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just while we're on this subject of the definitive map, I wrote to Baroness Heyman just as an individual when the announcement came out that the 2031 cut-off date is being scrapped, which is good news, I guess. Hope that's good news for you, Vanessa. But I felt like they were kind of saying, oh, it's all right, we've got rid of the date, and so everything's happy now, and local authorities have got all the time in the world. I mean, they literally said that, more or less. I've got all the time in the world now to get through their cases and all the rest of it. And I kind of took a bit of umbrage at that announcement, because it really did it didn't say anything about solving the problem about why these are taking so long in the first place. So I got a response back from Baroness Heyman, so just for everybody's benefit, which basically said that the government is committed to taking forward a number of measures through the Rights of Way reform project to streamline the Rights of Way process and ease the burden on local authorities. DEFRA will introduce the necessary legislation, and this will take priority. The Rights of Way reform project take priority. So
good to know, but I won't hold my breath.
No, quite. Just putting it out there that is
Thank
the
you.
official line I got back from Baroness Heyman on that subject.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, well, thank you very much. And we now move on to Philip Elias. Are you there, Pip?
I am indeed. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Morning. Yep, loud and clear.
And you can see my nice slides here.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. All right, we're on the way then. So welcome to BCP Rights of Way DLAF update, April 2025. Let's see what we've got for you here. Actually, up until just a minute ago, this was a completely blank slide, but I was so impressed by Vanessa's nice slides with all the graphics. I had to quickly paste in this lovely view of St. Catherine's Hill, because otherwise I would have had just a blank background there. Okay, so in the news then, we're now concluding our search for our next Star Rights of Way officer and are moving forward to the interview stages with a view to hopefully having somebody in place at the beginning of summer. We've had quite a large response to the advert, which is very inspiring, and we're pretty confident that we'll have an officer with both the professional skills and personal interest in access to bring our team back to full power this year. So just really looking forward actually to getting somebody in place and then cracking on with our work really. Next item, revising the Avon Valley path. I know you're interested in that very much. It remains inaccessible. Nothing really has changed on the ground or on the water as it now really is. So what we've resolved to do is to revise its course. We'll look at that more closely in just a moment. I've got a slide on that. And it's not directly rights of way business, but you may have read in the paper that BZP's draft local plan has been rejected by the planning inspectorate. The reason the planning inspectorate has not been able to pass the plan beyond stage 1 is because BCP Council did not, and this is their quote, this is me saying this, constructively and actively engage with neighbouring Dorset Council and New Forest District Council over housing needs. I'm not sure whether that will now involve modifications to the existing plan or like a total page 1 rewrite of the whole thing. But either way, there'll be a second consultation process for that. So look out for that. Next, let's see, new parish and town councils consultations. So we're asking residents to have their say on proposals to set up new parish and town councils to represent their communities The public consultation on the draft recommendations commenced on Monday, the 31st of March, 2025, and everyone is invited to express their views by Sunday, the 22nd of June, 2025. So community groups, residents associations, and individuals have already submitted their suggestions for how they wanted their communities to be represented during the first stage of the community governance review process. So the proposals being put forward to residents are for new parish councils for Broadstone, Redhill and Northbourne, Boscombe and Folkestone, and Southbourne, with the remainder of the former Poole Council area having a town council, and the remainder of the former Bournemouth Council area also having a town council. Final item in the news. Finally, BCP Council have progressed with the sale of the Christchurch Civic Centre, and as part of that process, inquiries were made by local residents association for the recording of various public rights of way across the site, with a view to ensuring that existing useful access across the site is preserved through the forthcoming development process. So I'm only going to show you a couple of these items now. So the Avon Valley path diversion. I've got a little map here. I don't know how thoroughly visible it's going to be to those of you in the room. But the general idea is that we've got these two routes. I mean, really one of them is the one which I'm working with, which pretty much just diverts it as close as possible to where the existing line would be, and that is along the A35 and then up Stony Lane, and then it actually just rejoins to where the Avon Valley path would ordinarily be. So actually, the only bit which actually gets diverted is just around this bend here, and you're pretty much just on a footway the whole way. We've got a crossing in there, so there's nothing too necessarily dangerous about it, but there's sort of improvements that I've been talking about with colleagues about how we want to improve the shared route along the side of the A35, and maybe there's further improvements to be done further up, but I think it's probably a fairly uncontroversial route. The dream, of course, would be to have something completely off-road, and I think the only possible idea would be something maybe tacked onto the side of the railway line here. But of course, we've had to sort of approach Newark Rail. I know they're very protective about their infrastructure and everything. So still, it seems like a good idea. We'd love to see something like that. They've obviously got to protect their line here, despite what's going on with all the water. So I don't know, something maybe we could approach. Merrick Estate Management, who administrate the Hinton Admiral Estate all around here, so they own loads of land around here. They suggested this alternative route in purple. It takes us sort of quite a way off the course of the Avon Valley, and also it seems to make use of sort of countryside roads which don't actually benefit from any footway whatsoever. I did ask them as to whether or not they were going to provide sort of a mown margin so that it could be an off-road route, but they were not going to offer that. So at the moment, I'm against this idea, just owing to the fact that it is on road for too much of its length, really, and also a little bit too far away from the Avon path. I think some of it is a little bit nicer towards the south here. We do have some paths which are off-road through here, but owing to the length that is going to be on road, I think I'm veering against this idea, to be honest. So chances are we're just going to get some signs made up and advising anybody either side of the existing public footpath as to what the situation is, and this is now where the Avon Valley path is going to pass for the time being. So that is that item.
Can I ask? I don't know whether you
Sorry.
can hear.
Yes, I
ask
can hear.
if you're going to be using your brown route, which I can see is the most sensible route, whether you will be trying to improve it in line with green infrastructure standards, so separate the pedestrian or whatever user it is. And I'm not sure. I've cycled around there and thought, oh my God, and with like a green strip and maybe trees and bushes or something like that, so that people and whatever they're with is separated from the road certainly on the bit of the A35. I can't see what other road you're using.
Yes, Stony Lane. No, you're absolutely right. We would love to see improvements all the way along here, as you say, extending the shared use path along here is something which I've already discussed with colleagues, although I don't know as to whether or not there's really any concrete plans for fulfilling that. And as you say, maybe making use of some of the land on the site here, owing to the fact that it is, after all, the Hinton Admiral Estate along here, America Estate. They surely could offer us some margins along here, maybe to go, away from the traffic. I would like to see all of that. Once you do get up to this point, it is public footpaths. I think you're back on the road just for a short length, and then we've got a bridleway here, which is all the existing Avon Valley route anyway. But yes, absolutely, we would love to see some improvements where it now goes along the road. Yeah, I think probably before being absolutely sure and committing sort of funds to that, I would love to just bottom out the idea as to whether or not it would be possible just to get something along the side of the railway line. I know it's maybe a bit of a forlorn hope, but it's definitely worth having a look at, I think, first. All right. So just a quick slide then on the Christchurch Civic Sale definitive map modification order. So we have been approached by Christchurch Town Council and Residents Association, who have expressed interest in the sale of the old civic site. And this has now progressed to the point, I believe it has now changed hands. And round about the time where it was in the process of sale, we were approached with these ideas of recording all of these orange routes through here as public rights of way. I think the general idea is that members of the public were concerned about potential loss of access because it is this long rectangle all the way down here, including this car park, which is going. And importantly, it does, it's right next to National Cycle Network route number 2. And so the idea really is that, well, we want to make sure that when this site comes up for development, which it imminently is, that we are going to make the best possible use of this as an opportunity for securing better links. We do have an existing public footpath. I don't know if you've ever been down here. It's a little bit narrow. It's certainly unkempt. It's got a wall going down one side and a river down the other. But there's so much potential here with this site to increase accessibility, to increase links through to Stanpit, just to allow a really nice sort of route between Christchurch town, and of course doing something about hopefully improving NCN2 down here. I don't necessarily agree with the routing which has been prepared here. I've not prepared this map myself, but there is surely opportunity here for sorting this out and just really increasing access, upgrading this public footpath, I think, to a shared route, making it wider, bringing it round, so getting that connection through to the Stanpit paths. Also need to probably look at the England coast path as to the routing there. But yeah, the definitive map modification order that is yet to be made, and I don't know exactly where that will leave us in terms of whether it's going to give us sort of more leverage to get some routes through here. But I remain optimistic that just through the development planning process alone, we should be able to get some really fantastic routes through here. But maybe the DMMO will be successful for a route coming all the way through here, and that might give us sort of a highway to work with. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that planning application when it comes in. Should be interesting. All right, well, I think that's more or less me for today.
Thank you very much indeed, Pip. Thank you. Very informative as ever, and some great opportunities in Christchurch to be examined. Okay, thank you. Right, moving on to item number 8. Dorset Council Green Space Management. Russ, you want to come in on that?
Yep, so I've got a few updates from the teams. So I don't know if you want to go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. We've got Brideway E467. I've been chatting to Mary about that one. Across Horton Common. My proposal for the improvements that I want to carry out are with Natural England at the minute, but it seems like really positive. So I'm hopeful that the issues there can be resolved, hopefully in the near future. So that's positive. We've done at the least 5 footpath bridges, getting them redecked, reopened, quite a quick turnaround. So that's in Older Holt, Stair Marshall. We've been working with kind contribution from the Ramblers, and we've identified a style 2 gate in Horton. So that's progressing really nicely, and then we're going to do more in the future. And I'm aware that I've been working closely with the area ranger for the National Trust, and they've done some really good sort of improvements, access improvements, sort of removing stiles and putting gates in and doing surfacing works.
They've got some really nice bright gates in.
Really nice, yeah.
And centre wire ones.
Yes, yeah. So we've been working,
which meets with the British Standard 5709.
Yes, yeah. We've been working closely with them. So yeah, it's all that's really positive. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Sorry, I probably should have said, and post the restructure we've had, I'm not sure we've had a last meeting since the final restructure because I wasn't at the last one. But Sophie's now senior ranger for East. We no longer have a North team and a Purbeck team. We had a North and Purbeck team, which Graham Stanley is the manager for. Stuart Semple is West and Graham Stanley is Central. So
Dave Ackley.
What did I say? Stuart Semple twice, did I?
No, yeah, can't remember.
Stuart West, Dave Central.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Congratulations. Good promotion.
So yeah, good work, and yeah, congratulations, Sophie's also smashing it in the role. So anything East, Sophie's
Right.
port of call. So Graham sends his apologies, but I have got an update from him. So he's on that note, his first point is getting to grips with what's in Purbeck area. So having taken on the Purbeck area to include with his northern role, we have sort of played risk a little bit with some of the boundaries and the parishes, and there's a slight change. So hopefully that map has been passed over for the new boundaries for the area. But he's getting to grips with the Purbeck area, including rights of way, sites and verge issues, also Southwest Coast Path. He was as far away from the coast as could be. Now he's got a very big stretch of it. So deep learning curve for that one, but ably assisted by the team over in Purbeck. He's been integrating the 2 teams together. He's put in 6 new bridges across the North and Purbeck area. I just share my screen on this one. This one, while we're talking about bridges, this was shared yesterday on Sturminster Newton's social media. This is a project on Hull House Lane. I'm not sure if you know that one, but so yeah, you can see the bridge, seen better days. This is on one of their walkabout routes. So the team, amongst some volunteers, went through and they've worked hard, taken out the rot and removed. There's all the new parts of the bridge. So this wasn't one that was on necessarily a bridge replacement scheme. This is one that we've done ourselves in-house with the volunteers. Working together, and the net result is a lovely new bridge.
We're using wood rather than plastic.
Wood rather than plastic on this one, yep. So what we're trying with our Brideway bridges, we're certainly replacing them with a plastic or a GRP or some kind of longer lived structure. But these ones, in a lot of these areas, we're still using wood. We're still getting value for money out of some of these ones in certain places. So yeah, so as you see, I go.
Lovely job.
From there to there. So
Lovely,
wow.
accessible, flat run up to it,
absolutely. So
and which I presume is now wide enough to take a mobility vehicle.
yep. So when we're replacing any of these, they're at least 1.2. So yeah, and also where we do shy away from, as rightly so, from steps, put ramps in wherever possible, just so that we can get as many people out into the countryside as possible. On that note, 30 more. They still have 30 more on our list for North and Purbeck for redecking. Some of them probably have been done since the point at which he wrote this. The team have done 4 kilometres of trailway and rights of way surfaced. 7 stiles been removed and replaced with gates, centre wire 1.2s. 6 more waiting this spring. He's investigating the current benefits and the potential of Orval. ORVAL, I'm not sure you've seen that one. It's a DEFRA tool for assessing the economic value of parks and paths. So that is an online tool. I've looked at it briefly and then not really tried to get my head around it too much more, because I'll let him explain it to me once he's got his head fully around it. So they've got a lot, he's got, as do all of the teams, a lot of planning applications coming in. So he's working, as are all the senior rangers, working with the planning team and make sure they get the most out of them, make sure they follow the rules, make sure that they don't close off paths illegally, working with them for diversions and closures, but also trying to get a net gain from planning wherever possible. And he's also working on a recruitment plan for new DLAF members, which will be ready for the next meeting. That in writing, you can hold it to it. So West, the National Landscapes funded bridleway at Chiddock is well underway now. So we had, I've got to show it on a map here. So this is the bridleway. I put it in orange on this map. So following the A35 up to Quor Lane, which is a D-class road, and then going into a UCR. This is a fantastic project.
I've seen it this morning. The ramp has gone up. It's still not open yet, but it's a transformation what you've done there.
Thank you.
It really is. Top marks for what has been achieved.
It is absolutely fantastic, and to get people of all mobility, but also horses as well, off of the A35, because we've seen it going up that hill. There are people who have just taken their life in their own hands going on that road. So it's not open yet, but it may be featured in the media at some point today, because we had media interest yesterday and we had to say, yeah, very proud. Well, yeah, don't promote yet, it's not quite open.
The landowners dedicated the land, so they have thanking as well.
So within Ness's backlog that she had there, or workload, there is the dedication for this right of way. So it will be dedicated as a bridleway, a 5 metre width, right through the headland of this field. So the landowner's been very, very generous. We obtained the funding through the National Landscapes, so formerly AONB, in order to achieve this work, and working with Blink, which is the Bridport to Lyme Regis link. So they want to have a contiguous route all the way through, following rights of way. But this was our first port of call, and you can see how beneficial it is. If I zoom out to the wider infrastructure, the road crossing isn't great. It's much better than having to go all the way up the A35 to then cross it to head south towards the coast. But you can also get back to Symonsbury following D roads and UCRs. But this is phase 1. There are further phases planned in which we take this same surface path right the way through. So a real win and a brilliant project that we've been working on there. So it's had its fair share of ups and downs with finding various problems along the way, but nothing we couldn't overcome. We've worked again with the Gas Network and others in order to bring this to fruition. So,
but it's a bridleway, not a cycleway.
Bridleway, not cycleway, yes.
And cyclists obviously can use it.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but it's not a cycleway. No. Cycleways always have to be 3 times more expensive.
No, so as always with the work we do with our surfacing, they're always good value for money. We can get for a square metre of tarmac, we could probably do 100 metres. It feels like it. I'm not quite sure.
Yes.
It's I over exaggerate the tarmac.
Your team can work to more sensible restrictions than the cycleway lot.
Yes. So again, it's a semi-sealed surface, so it's compacted Type 1 stone top with dust planings to make sure that it stands up, because there's quite a volume of orographic flow and rainfall that comes off of that hill.
I was going to say, you've got a hill there, which is a problem with, will be erosion in the end, will it?
So it could possibly be, although we've kept in drains that are within the field margin anyway, but also kept the camber just so that it doesn't run down it at all. It just sheds wherever it lands. There is a problem further down in Chiddock, which I know the land drainage team are working with, but of course our little path there's not going to do much to mitigate any problems there. So overall, that's I'm so glad. I've said that when we do the opening, I want to be the first bike to go down over there. So yeah, that's fantastic. So again, the National Landscapes, they've also funded a permissive accessible route in West Bay. So it's part of the tramper route, or can be used as part of the tramper route, so it can go up over, but it was a bit up and down and a bit uneven and a bit not that great. So again, so thanks to the National Landscapes team for giving us the funding there, which means we can move people safely up and down, which will also give them access to the top of the cliffs at West Bay as well. So the work is continuing to surface the coast path at Hive Point, which is funded through bird mitigation. So we are funding area around Chickerell to prevent what we're getting a lot at the moment is back to these pesky animals, of which I own one, the dogs going down onto the foreshore, disturbing the wintering birds. So what we're doing is making a more accessible route, still footpath, because we're just surfacing what we've already got, but people will be able to come up there and also then gapping up, blocking up the gaps to prevent the animals and people going down onto the foreshore, disturbing the birds, causing them to flee, and it was causing a lot of problems. So that's ongoing as we speak as well. In the west, also working with Bridport Town Council, we've surfaced a small section of Happy Island. Still awaiting the Secretary of State's decisions on the King Charles III England Coast Path, but we've done 7 bridges with 1 more yet to be installed, including the one in Powerstock where we're aware we had a horse go through a footpath bridge.
Yeah, very sad.
Very sad, very sad.
The horse didn't make it.
Broken leg or something?
No, it sustained internal injuries and a problem with the tail as well. The vets did all they could, but I'm yet to understand whether or not the rider rode the route in belief there were higher rights there. You know, some routes are under-recorded, and you know, I just do not know what the situation is there. Obviously, it's very sensitive.
It is, and very sad. What we've doing off the back of that is, the route was marked footpath.
Yeah.
It was marked throughout, as is like all of our routes. And that's what we do a lot of way marking others. But also, there's we're looking internally at the project of what else could we do for some of these bridges, for instance, to make sure that it's absolutely crystal clear on them who can and who cannot use them. So it is a tragic event, but we are, we've looked ourselves as well and said, what can we do just to prevent?
The problem we've got in this country is that to secure rights of way, you have to have trespass first, because it's 20 years.
Use it for 20 years.
Without
challenge.
Without challenge, force, secrecy, and there are a lot of routes that are under-recorded, and where they're under-recorded, people are using them. And I know Vanessa has got a stack of them waiting to go through, and some will be footpaths that are seeking higher rights. So it's a conundrum, and we're not going to solve it in here.
The other linking route further up is a byway open to all traffic. So you've got, so the byway open to all traffic goes up, meets the D-class road, and then this footpath comes up, or you have to follow the D-class road further around. So, yeah, it is. You are right. There are these other recorded and unrecorded and higher rights. Yeah, so that bridge is still waiting to go in, but of course that was a tragedy, and yeah,
Which footpath number was it?
It was. It was W3933. Yeah, but that bridge is due to be replaced soon.
Yeah. And it was a bridge in excellent condition from the photographs in the first place, but it was just
Yeah,
as a footbridge,
not
up to the spec as a bridleway bridge.
So did it give way, or did she just fall off the edge of it?
Went through one of the planks.
Yeah.
Oh, so her foot went through, so it gave way.
Went through.
Yeah,
It
One of
wasn't,
its-
wouldn't take the weight.
exactly right. Yeah. It's the ground pressure of a horse is vastly.
Yes, because it's small hoof.
Central area. Dave Ackley has. I see we've got it. It is on the agenda for a bit later on as well. But Dave Ackley has been back out to the Piddle Valley to look at the Piddle project. Looked at the work that's already been done, and then looking for other bits to move forward. They've done some surfacing in Swannery. This is a little bit old now, but Swannery, off the Swannery car park. So it's the RSPB, Dorset Council land that the RSPB have long lease over, but we're funded by the Ramblers Association in cooperation with the RSPB and Natural England. Nice path to go through there. To put 2 GRP bridleway bridges in Broadmain, 1 GRP footpath bridge in Cerne Abbas, and I've got another one in Thornford, and then one more wait to go in currently. And then we've been working in that area a lot on High Angle Battery. I'm not sure if you've seen any of the press and releases, but High Angle Battery, big HLF funded. Portland, yes. So the High Angle Battery, the Natural Environment team have spent a lot of money, funded money to bring this back into. It's just amazing now. I really can't recommend enough that you go up there because it looks fantastic. They've got replica guns, they've got interpretation, they've increased access by sorting out where the old railway line, those used to have like little carriages that go through little tracks, and we've improved the right of way coming up to it. So it's, you know, all fits into a lovely piece of the opening for that is on the 26th of April.
Is this separate from the application for the incinerator? Because that was going to be one of the mitigations.
Yeah, that was separate. Yeah.
So that, but it's happening anyway. The high angle.
That's already finished. Yeah, that is in separate. Yeah, I don't know where Dorset Council sits with the incinerator, other than I think that we tried to.
We've rejected it several times.
But yeah, so we have our interest isn't to be associated with it.
Okay, at one time they were linked. That's
everything. And there's also another big wider project which was also sort of linked, but that wasn't it. But they did get the money for this, so fantastic. And as I say, we've improved the rights of way and links up there, so we could have some legacy work up there as well with volunteers keeping the whole area looking good.
Could you please invite councillors to site visit up there or something like that?
Absolutely. I'll
having argued at various planning meetings and being told that the only way we could improve the high angle battery was by allowing the incinerator, it would be nice to know to show everybody that you can do one without the other.
No worries. So Bridget Betts is in charge of that one, so I will pop her a message and ask her to.
I think the planning team would like to go.
Yeah. Well, of course, the National Environment team now sits under that umbrella as well, don't they? So yeah, that's sort of a nice quick overview of the whole county. Yeah, I'll ask about the road. In progress.
In progress, right?
Progress.
Okay.
And double checking what else Graham had written. To do, and the TTRI processes. Did Graham share that around?
Yes, he did.
He did, yes. I've got it. I have got a copy, but yeah, I believe that's already been shared around. So, yeah, I did try and pull off the stats for what we've achieved just recently, but I will share that separately to the meeting because when I was trying to do it, the database was down and I couldn't pull it out. But I'll get some stats. But we are, as is always for this sort of period of the year, we're knocking out more jobs that come in, but then of course everything's to start growing again now. So then it'll ebb and flow. But yeah, we are.
And you've just had a retranche of money coming in, so.
Yeah. Never enough, but you know,
Never enough.
we
Never
are
enough.
value for what we do.
Thus is the world. Any more progress on the Maid Newton to Toller railway line?
There is, but I'm embargoed from talking about it. Unfortunately, no, there is work going on with that, but we can't. I can't give any further updates other than the fact that there are negotiations and talks ongoing, and hopefully there would be an announcement later this year regarding the next stretch.
Oh, good.
Sorry to be cryptic, but I can't give any more information out without potentially jeopardising part of the project.
Oh, on the Wills Woodland site,
Yes.
there's a byway coming up to it, on the edge of it. There's got a gate at the top, which is respectful for wide. It'd be very difficult for people with trampers or anything else, or a horse-drawn vehicle to get through it.
Okay, I will make a note of that one.
There's a locked gate alongside it.
I think I know the one, but yeah, I will. I'll raise that with Stuart, and then S2039.
So we've touched on the pit path on the way through. So moving to item 10.
Sorry,
Update.
Chairman.
Sorry.
I actually had some questions for Russell, although I don't know whether he's going to be able to answer them.
My apologies, I didn't see the hand up.
Russell, I don't know if you can help on this. I actually had quite a few questions on the traffic regulation order process.
I will do my best.
Right. Well, the first thing is that the little note that we had said traffic team proceeds with the legal process to produce the public notice, advertising if the intent. That doesn't quite make sense. Well, the first question was, where do traffic regulation orders get advertised?
Local press and online.
Right. Okay. The second question is, and this it's not really a question, it's just an observation, which is that temporary traffic regulation orders are put onto Dorset Explorer, so you can find them on there. But we have noticed that that isn't always done, and if it is done, it's not necessarily updated and not removed when it's no longer applicable. And we found a couple, it's not that we went around specifically looking for problems for you, but Jan managed to find one that was dated 2013 and another one that was dated 2016. So so they don't that what's shown on Dorset Explorer is not actually always being kept up to date, but we didn't really want to add to the burden of all the rangers, but it's just an observation. And
no, you're absolutely. Well, I can comment on that one if you like.
Mm-hmm.
In the next iteration of Dorset Explorers, well, the seaside element that we use in order to manage all of our rights of way jobs and elements such as closures, I've worked into it that because at the moment it relies on the human element. What I've done is worked with our GIS team to build in a fallback system that will alert the area to the fact that either a notice is elapsing, so to give them time to put in for a new closure within the set timeframes, but also that it will take it off, a reminder to take it off and to put on. So it's
oh, that's brilliant.
A system, and it'll keep it live and up to date and correct, because we know our users go on there to look for rights of way which are closed, and say if something's been since 2013, we imagine it's open. Imagine it's not some of them are actually, there are some TROs which are still active from that time, which haven't been, they're not permanent TROs.
No.
They never closed. But yeah, take the point, and yeah, so the next iteration should reduce that.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you for that. The final one was the final bullet point in the note that we got said the applicant has responsibility to remember when he needs to reapply if they're going to need longer time for the TTRO. Is that made clear to the applicant that that's down to them, that they've got to keep an eye on that?
Yes,
Right.
as part of the process and part of what the information they get back. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And you did that. Oh yeah. Oh yes. There was one other thing. You mentioned that the Ramblers and the RSPB and Dorset Council had worked on the resurfacing of the path at Radipole. And unfortunately, just in the last day or so, I've had an email from the RSPB to say they've had a complaint from a wheelchair user that he's less able to use the path since it's been resurfaced. So I'm going to I'll contact Dave about that, and we'll have to investigate that, because unfortunately,
can you include me on that as well, please?
Yeah, sure. The money that South Dorset Group of the Ramblers got from the Central Ramblers to pay for the works was specifically to improve accessibility. So it's a bit unfortunate if somebody from using a wheelchair is having problems since it's been done. So yeah, we'll have to follow that one up.
Absolutely, yeah. We need to find out why, whether it's the surfacing, water, other issues. So
yeah, I mean, I visited it several times since it's been done, and I was thinking, oh, this is a really good job, excellent. But obviously, I wasn't using it in a wheelchair, so we'll have to investigate that one.
Absolutely, yeah. Forward that on to myself and Dave, and then we can report back.
Okay, thank you. And
thank you.
I think that's probably it. Oh yeah, I mean the next item 9, Chairman, it said Piddle Path update JD, and that was only because
it's got JN, so it's you. All right, sorry.
Oh, it's just, yeah. It's the lady who you may recall gave a presentation about the Piddle Valley Path. Oh, quite some time ago now. She came to County Hall when we had a meeting and gave us a little presentation about it. And she was the lead campaigner on trying to get this path improved. It was a lady called Maria de Figueredo. And she had just sent me a note to say how pleased they were. The Piddle Path Action Team is delighted that Dorset Council started repairs on the Piddle Path in summer 2024. And then she goes on to describe all the works that were done, which I won't bore you with, but they were very pleased. And as was mentioned by Russell, there are a few things that they'd still like to be done, but I understand Dave has been out to look at those. So yeah, the Piddle Path campaign group is very pleased with what's been done.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you. I saw JN on the agenda and I thought, what's that? And just a typo there. Right. Moving on to item 10, update on King Charles III English Coast Path. Updates from Tim Hall.
Yeah, well, Graham circulated a little note from Tim Hall, which everyone should have had.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can take it as read. And we've got the circulation final report on the section 52 notice.
I got them up from Tim Hall there. If you want me to read it? Yeah. Update from Tim Hall regarding the apologies for the slow reply. We don't have a map currently for the route through the ranges. However, any route would follow the current southwest coast path using the yellow marker posts / stones and stones to guide walkers. The final reports for Kimmeridge to Highcliffe are available, and then Graham's included a link. Obviously, the opportunity to comment on the proposal has passed. The section 52 noticed here, which includes another link, and it includes the inspector's reports of Natural England's comment on the reps we have received, including those requesting the route to have gone around Poole Harbour and why we didn't choose to. No update on when a decision will be made regards Chapter 6 Christchurch Harbour, but early summer. So again, it's
straightforward. Okay. Item 11, Member feedback from associated group meetings. Dorset National Landscape, Janet.
Yeah, the only thing to report on the Dorset National Landscape is that as we speak, they are working on their next management plan. And a month or so ago, I attended a meeting for everybody who's got any kind of interest in access. And it was just kind of a workshop meeting where they talked about the sorts of things that are likely to be in the plan, and we all had the opportunity to chip in. So the plan will be out for consultation later on this year. So that's something that we'll be wanting to comment on, I'm sure. But it all sounded quite promising.
We'll pop that on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Cranbourne Chase.
Yes, it says for me to circulate, but I thought I'd already done this. And
Yeah.
I responded, as everybody knows, I circulated that the consultation on the draft management plan, and I circulated our response.
An excellent response it was. I've got to congratulate you on that. It was so thorough. No, you put a lot of time in on it.
But anyway, I've heard nothing back.
Don't hold your breath.
So the proofs of in the sort of the pudding's in the eating, isn't it? So there you go.
Yeah, first class response. And Fiona on the local nature partnership, Fiona not being here, I just think we take that as read. Move on to item number 12, ratification of responses made since our last meeting. Well,
that's all.
I think we take those as read.
Yeah, that's all been circulated.
So, if we have any other business, I haven't got. Janet,
sorry, me again.
Come in again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the Russell and the Rangers, what is the policy of Dorset Council when you receive a report via the usual channel of people reporting it online to at this time of year, ploughing problems? In my village and elsewhere that I've observed, paths are presently being ploughed out, and you report them online, and they get allocated middling priority, I think. But I just wonder whether you do actually do anything at all about ploughing and cropping problems, or do you just wait until people have tramped out the roots themselves, or the farmers have harvested whatever crop it was later in the year? Because I reported the cropping of a little bit of the Jubilee Trail actually last year in the summer, and I got the feedback to say that the job had been done in February of this year, that said the path is now clear. Well, yeah, it was clear in February because the path has cropped in September or whatever. And so I just wondered what your policy is on doing anything about ploughing and cropping, and if there's anything that we as a LAF can do about it, because I know at one point within the last sort of 18 months or so, Graham did say that perhaps there was something that the LAF could do in the context of ploughing and cropping, which was to maybe contact the NFU and CLA in Dorset and just give them it won't have much effect, but it would make me feel better. Just give them a gentle nudge about reinstating paths after ploughing and not allowing crops to grow on them.
I've actually seen a document from the NFU that stresses that farmers should maintain their public rights of way because it fosters good community relationships.
They don't.
I know they don't.
They don't in Dorset.
Depends where you are.
They're really good at spreading manure on them as well.
I'll come back in with, in my patch, that obviously fields get ploughed up because they're putting down corn or rape or whatever it is. And the general assumption is within 6 weeks, they will have made it good.
Mhm.
It's usually by running a roller down the footpath line across the ploughed field, but they can't plough around a crooked footpath, but they do in many areas.
I thought the legislation was a lot less than 6 weeks, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and it also depends on where the path is. Like, you know, you're not allowed to plough ahead of the path, for instance, and others. But yeah, they should really within 24 hours run a roller down through it as a minimum in order to reinstate the line of the footpath. What pick up Janet's point, what we do when they're allocated, when they come in, is it'll often either be a phone call to the landowner, and we follow up with a letter as well. One of the problems that we do have is, you know, cropping, for instance, and others are an obstruction to a public highway, and then we have to go through a whole process. And often by the time the process is completed, the crop is gone. So then, it, you know, from start to finish, it can be a problem. We do, I think, going to the NFU and perhaps asking them to speak to their members again and just put something out there just to say, you know, it's that time of year again. We have been successful quite a lot, and you know, often the threat of some kind of measure, which, you know, within our rights, we can go through and potentially cut through a crop, which, you know, we never want to do. We'd rather just wasn't there in the first place, because talk about fostering relationships and working with landowners. One of the things that we went through and smashed out the crop, although legally bound.
They should have been there in the first place. So it's.
But also then we, but then we want to go repair a bridge on the land, and then we have to use our access powers rather than just the goodwill. So there is. I'm not saying we don't avoid it. We ring them up, and we also send them a map along with a letterhead. Sometimes it's later on in the season we get informed, then we'll send us another letterhead that we send out that says you have cropped the path this year. We'll be looking out for it. You know, don't do it again next year. I think one of the problems we get is that people are just really they're really accommodating for crop. And what they'll do is they'll go and just walk around the edge of the field. And a lot of people do walk around the edge of the field anyway, rather than cross the field. So we don't get a great deal of reports.
It's really uncomfortable though, isn't it? I mean, if you've got to go across, if it happens that they've ploughed that way and you're going that way, it's heckishly uncomfortable. I mean, you know, if they happen to have ploughed in the direction you're walking, then it's probably not so bad with one, as long as you've got one leg longer than the other. But going across, it's a nightmare. And, you know, walkers aren't getting any younger. And therefore, it's more of an effort than it used to be when you were 25.
No, and yeah, they said they should be running a roller as a minimum across the line of the path, and then one of the problems they have, some of the more modern machines to sow the crop, they can actually put the right of way through it, so it won't actually sow at those points. But more often than not, they're supposed to spray out when they get through. But a lot of the time, it's just a blanket across. And so yeah, we do deal with it, but it's not as. Although I know it's probably a more common problem than we get reports for, we don't actually get that many reports for because people seem quite accommodating for it.
Well, I think also people think, oh my God, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just if you complained about every field, you could spend all your life complaining, really, couldn't you?
We do also, as part of our flood mitigation, actually encourage farmers to plough certain fields. Certainly after the maize has been taken off, with the compacted, almost sealed surface from maize, then need them to run the plough around so the water can get into the ground, because we've had Winterbourne Abbas is a fantastic example of this, where it flooded through the petrol station, and that runoff came from maize fields. It brought the maize with it, and maize stubble, blocked the drains, and it was so then we sort of say, well, you need to plough, and then we sort of say, well, the right way. They go, well, what do you want me to do? And you go, well, so we work with them as well. So I know that's a bigger problem. It's the whole field.
Shouldn't they be part of a catchment sensitive farming scheme to do large margins to ensure that sort of stuff doesn't happen?
Well, hopefully, but then they need the cash incentive in order to do that. And if the cash incentive isn't there, they're going to maximise the yield.
I mean, but you can apply for the cash through the catchment sensitive farming.
And
if you're in that area,
if you're in the right areas, if that, so it's a.
I was going to say, you know, sort of, I'll stand up for farmers here and say they try. Many of the landowners in my patch try. They usually run a roller through. When the crop gets up, they will mow it as a separate thing when they mow a headland later on in the season, so the corn doesn't get so wide. But sometimes walkers are causing their own problems by taking various diversions through a field. So it looks like a network rather than one footpath.
And that's it. And that's why we inform the landowners when we send them out. This is the definitive line. This is the only one you have to maintain. Granted, like I say, headland paths exist in every field, regardless of there's a headland path or not.
It's not a path.
It's not a path. It's
not a path. It's a nature restoration strip. Yes.
Yeah. So that. Sorry, Janet. I was talked kind of around the what you raised there, but yeah, we do contact the landowners.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Date to next meeting. What I propose to do, if we do a sort of Google poll, whatever it's called these days, and Graham will send out the invites. Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. A very useful and informative meeting. And we'll see you in 3 or 4 months.
Thank you. Which time the footpaths will have grown over with nettles instead.
We're playing more often.
Right.
We've made it easier.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Right. Thank you. Bye-bye now. Bye.
Oh, do I have to escape from this?
Bye, Janet.
Bye.
Well,
Yeah, we met with Graham.